Let me say a pleasant good day or good evening to each and everyone in Georgetown, Guyana. Brothers and sisters, as you might be aware that there's an election blooming just a few weeks away from us, and there's nothing we can do about it but just sit and listen to these hypocrites as they walk along the street trying to gain your sympathy or your vote. But one must accept and realize that it is the same message and the same messenger, depends upon how you look at it. We have seen in the past many great people walk through your villages, hug your mothers, hug your sisters, and even embrace your child. But what become of those hug, those embrace, when you put them in their office where they want to be? And as you all know, my name is George Correia. I challenge God and the devil, and it might sound very foolish, but let me tell you the reason why I challenge the two. God and the devil is forever and ever. You and I are temporary. No man shall or will live forever. But when men who walked in flesh and blood and look like us and try to lie to us, promises us everything and they cannot deliver, we become a fool if we continue to listen to their cry. What I'm getting at here is the political heritage and history of Georgetown, Guyana. Since the 1960s, we have seen tremendous changes. There was a riot that caused young Indian children to be raped and killed. 3, 4, and 5 years, little Indian girls in Mackenzie was raped. Bottle was pushed into their private parts. Ask members of the PNC. Some of them is still alive. I do not know if these creatures are not ashamed of themselves. They go to the church and call upon Jesus to forgive them. Maybe that is why every time I look at the sky, it go another mile up. The Lord don't even want to listen to their voice. Those innocent children. And why it was done? Because somebody feel that was their rights because they want to go into the political office and want to rule Guyana, which means rule the citizen of the country, because Guyana is land, water, and rocks and sun, as you know it as main forest. But racism, one of the most ugliest thing on the face of earth. We have blacks versus white, white versus black, Indian versus Chinese, Chinese versus Indian, black versus Indian, Indian versus black. Then we have religion conflict. But in Guyana, we have those wise guys, like our politicians, who come out to lie to us. They turn us against each other, fighting and destroying one another just because they wanted to be the president or prime minister. Look, this is the 24th century. I, George Correia, is appealing to you. What did the late Forrest Burnham leave for his supporter? Hardship, darkness, and many other things that follow with it. False promises. What did the late Cheddy Jagan leave with his supporter? A promise and nothing else. Ladies and gentlemen, on the 11th of May, Guyanese will be going to the poll again to elect a leader to represent them from left, right, to develop their mentality and to push the country forward. Let it be known to you that it was the same cry we heard many years ago, only a different messenger in the making. I ask this question. Why is the PNC, who suddenly become APNO, and let me deal with them because I give everybody the share, as you know. In the 60s, when they get into power, it was a coalition between the United Force and the PNC. Several Indians crossed the floor to form the government. I wouldn't give you the name. Hamilton Green knows some of them. And I think Carl Greenwich may have known some of them. That was a coalition that led Guyana into independence in 1966, the 26th of May. After all the catastrophe that had happened to Indian people, children, and the Indian. Yes, Guyanese blacks had carried a bad name, and I repeat, Guyanese blacks had carried a bad name for the 60s, 1960s, the late 1960 uprising. It was not Guyanese blacks that started the fire in Georgetown and the killing and raping of Indian women and children and beating of their men. It was Highlanders that they called Palawala that came through the shoot of Trinidad under Eric William government. Burnham, brother-in-law. George Correia, do not lie. I love my country because this is all what I know. The United States government under the late John F. Kennedy was involved in it. Dean Ross and many more. And there was a theme song during the 60s when the riot began, when Shetty was trying to get the budget concerning a man named Jack Kelshaw. Hit the road, Jack, don't you ever come back no more, no more. That was sung by black people. And that what sparked the fire. One day after the Queen's sister Elizabeth visited Georgetown, Guyana, and the same night she flew out with the 3 helicopters escort her to the airport, at Kingston Airport at the time, the fire began. It is a very much ignorant affair, an historical event that no man must forget. Whether you are black, you're an Indian, you're a Chinese, or you're a Portuguese, you do not belong to Guyana. It's an Amerindian country. You came here as children and grandchildren of slaves or cheap labor. It was the fault of the British colonial master to leave you here. You should not have fight for independence, but should have fight to return back to Mother Africa, India, China, and Portugal. This country belong, and I repeat, belong to Amerindians. And let me deal with the PMC. History is a wonderful thing. You can kill me if you want, because both parties has their killer. But when God kills, is greater than any man can afflict. So let it be known to you, he who born of blood can die of blood, no hard feelings. He who sell his brother and sister is worse than the devil who tempt him as he says he's tempted. So wake up, man. We all got a part to play in this great music that make the world go round. The PNC party stopped at nothing to gain power in the 60s. Burning, looting, and use Highlanders that they call Palawala. That many of them are in high tuning and Madhya. They should have been brought for trial towards the crime that was committed against Indian descendants into Guyana, knowing that you were not Amerindian, but children and grandchildren of African slaves that committed that crime. If it was done by the native Indian, which is the Amerindian, I would have welcomed it, and it could have been forgiven. But since it was done by children of slaves and grandchildren of slaves, it's a crime still waiting to be tried. I don't know how your politicians look at it. You might kill everything else, but you cannot kill the truth. And history is the most powerful thing on the face of the earth. Today, with a little internet computerization and other thing and technology, the world over becomes a little peanuts. In second we can touch India. In second we can touch Africa. And in seconds we can touch any part of the world. That is technology. Thanks to that. But what I'm getting at here, after the coalition in the 60s, by the late Fos Burnham and Degar, let me give you the count of the vote. And if your politician don't tell you the truth, know your history and don't make the same mistake over and over and over. Regardless you are from African descendant or Indian, Chinese and Portuguese, we are Guyanese.